The previous video I posted on this channel was about all the books that I had read in 2021. But actually, I've never considered this channel to be exclusively a booktube channel. I also like to talk about movies and TV shows and podcasts on this channel. So I thought I'd do another video to wrap that up. Starting with movies. I barely saw any movies this year, which is a big change from the way I used to live 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I mean, yeah, it's an interesting little flip in my life. It used to be that I would watch way more movies than I would read books. But for the past few years, I've read more books than I've watched movies. No, not a ton of books, 26 books this past year. But I only saw two movies this past year, which is quite a change from the way my life used to be. So I guess briefly I'll talk about why I hardly watch any movies nowadays. Biggest reason is having kids. So I've got one toddler and now a new baby. Makes it very difficult, and I live in a small apartment. So it makes it very difficult to get peace and quiet and sit down and watch a movie. But aside from that, I don't really even have access to movies these days. I mean, it used to be when I lived in the US or when I lived in Japan years ago, I would always go to the video rental stores and, was in there several times a week back in the days, just renting movie after movie. But those video rental stores, I think, are a thing of the past now, right? I'm pretty sure they're gone in the U.S. I imagine they're gone in Japan, although I haven't been to Japan since 2009, 2010, so I'm out of touch. When I lived in Cambodia, you could get tons of DVDs, all pirated DVDs, but technically illegal, but so common that they were kind of de facto legal in Cambodia. And you would get cheap DVD players and hook them up to your TV, and I would just watch loads and loads of DVDs when I lived in Cambodia. When I moved over to Vietnam, Vietnam did not have the same culture of pirated DVDs everywhere that Cambodia does for whatever reason. I don't know entirely the reasons, but the biggest obvious reason seemed to be that in Vietnam, the Vietnamese would use streaming sites to watch everything rather than buy it on DVD. So there are a number of prominent streaming sites in Vietnam that have advertising on them that are apparently allowed by the Vietnamese government as long as they don't pirate new Vietnamese films. But the foreign films are on there immediately. I'm just going off of what people have told me. Don't quote me on any of this. So it's all available on streaming sites in Vietnam, but I never really felt comfortable pirating stuff off the internet. I think these sites are safe enough, but I do worry about viruses and cookies and all that stuff nonetheless. And plus, I don't like watching too much stuff on my computer. I don't, if there's, I have done, of course. If there's a movie I really want to see or a TV show I'm really curious about, Game of Thrones season finale, for example, I'll watch it on the streaming websites on the computer. But just sitting by the table, hunched over your computer, that's never felt comfortable to me. So, and then of course COVID. There was COVID, which Vietnam was able to stamp out COVID in 2020. It was one of the COVID success stories. But then the Delta variant got out here in early, about April, May 2021. They were not able to stamp that one out with the same success. The Delta variant was just much more contagious. So things have been shut down here. You couldn't go to cinemas if you wanted to. And of course, all the big releases delayed. So all of those reasons why I haven't been watching movies, no access to them, and couldn't get peace and quiet in the apartment even if I did have access to them. There was only 2 movies I saw this year. One was a movie I had seen years ago and I was rewatching it, and then one was a movie I saw for the first time. Both of them I reviewed on this channel and on my blog, so I'll just link to my reviews of them down below. The first movie I saw was House of Dracula, which was one of those old Universal monster movies, which I had seen back when I was in college. But I wanted to rewatch it for Halloween. Now, in my apartment, we do have a smart TV. Let me show this here. This is it here. And it's a bit funny. For whatever reason, it only works with YouTube. We can't get any other websites to play on it, but we can play YouTube on it. So for Halloween, I was looking to see if there were any old monster movies on YouTube, just for fun. Because I had been a fan of those Universal monster movies when I was younger. House of Dracula is the only one I found. Now, House of Dracula is, I think, universally regarded as one of the worst Universal monster movies, or at least the worst of the team-up Universal monster movies. It's a team-up that has Frankenstein, Dracula, and the Wolfman all in it. And that may have been the reason why it was on YouTube, and the other ones were not. Possibly the copyright holders, Universal, was less concerned about House of Dracula leaking onto YouTube than it was about some of their other more famous properties. So Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman or House of Frankenstein, those were not on YouTube, but House of Dracula was. So I thought, okay, well, this will be fun to watch for Halloween, bring back old memories of when I used to be really into these Universal monster movies. So I cleared it with the wife 2 weeks in advance. I said, okay, Halloween, I know it's chaotic around this apartment with the toddler. I'd really like to try and watch this monster movie. Then just to lay the groundwork, tried to remind her of it every day subsequently. I said, okay, don't forget on Halloween, I am planning on watching a movie. I know this is putting extra stress on you to have to watch the toddler while I'm doing that, but I want to be able to watch the movie. Sure enough, on Halloween I was able to watch the movie. I had to pause it a couple times to go deal with stuff with the toddler, as you do. But I was able to watch the movie. So that was the one movie I was able to watch this year. And then the other movie was the new Spider-Man movie. The Spider-Man No Way Home, which I reviewed on this channel last week or a couple weeks ago, pretty recently, because I just saw it. Now, they are opening things up in Vietnam again. I had mixed feelings about whether or not it was a wise idea to go to the cinema. My wife actually suggested going to it. She's not as into these Marvel movies as I am, but she's been to the last few Spider-Man movies with me, the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and she's enjoyed them. And it was getting good reviews in the papers, in the news. Nobody reads the newspapers anymore. So she she suggested going, and she booked the tickets online. And I was going back and forth about whether it was responsible to go to the movie theaters or not. I mean, we were both double vaccinated with the COVID shot. The boosters haven't hit Vietnam yet, but we were both double vaccinated. But you do hear about breakthrough cases all the time. And I did not want to I did not want to get COVID in the movie theaters and then bring it home to the unvaccinated toddler and baby. But I was reading in the papers that the theaters were only allowed to operate at half capacity. So I thought, well, maybe it's all right. And, you've got to go back to normal life sometime or other. At a certain point, you have to start living with the virus. All those things that you tell yourself. And then actually the day before, I said to the wife, can we cancel the tickets? I'm not sure it's a good idea to go to the movie theater. And the wife said, no, we can't cancel the tickets. I already paid for them. Albeit movie tickets in Vietnam are not nearly as expensive as they are in the U.S. In the U.S. you have to take out a loan to buy tickets to the movies. Here it would have only been about $5 or something. But still, it's the principle of the thing, having already paid for it. So we went to the theater and we had on the masks, and they were the heavy duty, N95 masks and stuff like that. But still, the thing that I was not expecting. I mentioned earlier I had read on the news that the theaters were only allowed to operate at half capacity, so they could only sell half the tickets. But what the movie theater did is it just sold the tickets in the back half of the theater. So rather than spreading people out, it was only half capacity, but the people who were in the movie theater were all crammed in the back few rows together. So there were people on all around us, person next to me, person next to my wife, people in front of me, people in back of me. And I think it was actually worse that way than it would have been if they would have just opened the theater up. Because I always tell my wife to get the seats in the back anyways. And a lot of Vietnamese people don't like sitting at the back. They like to sit closer to the front. So we quite often will have the back row to ourselves under normal circumstances. But here, because everyone was crammed into the back, because they were only selling the back seats, it was really crowded in those back seats. And people had their masks on when they entered the theater, but then they had their popcorn and their drinks. So everyone around us was having their masks off, eating the popcorn and the drinks and laughing at the movie and talking to each other. My wife and I kept our masks on the whole time. And it was in an air-conditioning air-conditioned room in the theater. So no outside ventilation. It's not like there was it's not like being outside. So I said to my wife as we were leaving the theater, I said, we shouldn't have done that. That was about the most unsafe thing we could have done as terms of exposing ourselves to COVID. Now that was a couple weeks ago, and neither of us came down with COVID, so knock on wood, seem to have made it through that. But that was our one and only theater experience of 2021, and we'll not be going back to the theaters anytime soon. My wife asked me, any other movies you want to see? And I said, yeah, actually, there are a few more new movies I want to see. That new West Side Story by Steven Spielberg. Really like to see that. I said, but I'm not going back to the theaters. Now, the irony is, or is irony the right word? Let's go with irony. The irony is that Spider-Man No Way Home movie benefits from being seen on a big screen. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's the kind of movie you want to see on the big screen. Except you don't want to go to the big screen because, depending on where you live. But in a lot of places, you don't want to go to the big screen because it's an unnecessary COVID risk. But those action sequences, I think, really do benefit from being seen on the big screen. So that's the twist of it all. I don't recommend going to the theaters during the COVID outbreak, but those action scenes benefit from being seen on the big screen. Yeah. So those are all the movies I saw this year. Just those two. Now I would hate to give the impression that for the rest of the year I've just been an intellectual and been buried in books. I've wasted tons of time watching videos on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all the usual ways people waste time on the internet. But I haven't watched a lot of movies. Just those two. So Spider-Man: No Way Home. I on my blog I gave that 8 out of 10 stars. That was probably being a little bit overly generous, to be honest. But I've already published the review, published that rating. I think I was very impressed or very taken by the big event of having those three different franchises cross over, and the action scenes were really impressive. Between the two of those, I guess I got a little bit swept up in the moment and was maybe overly generous with 8 out of 10 stars, but 8 out of 10 stars it is. I've already published that rating. And then House of Dracula, the movies I rewatch, I don't give ratings to. Those are just movies I'm rewatching. Okay, in addition to that, TV shows I saw this year was Wandavision. Now, I mentioned earlier in this video that in Vietnam, people just stream everything off of these Vietnamese websites. And Wandavision I saw off of one of those websites. I saw this initially. I mentioned earlier I don't like doing that, just for comfort reasons, if nothing else. But I had a couple weeks where my wife and the toddler were staying back in my wife's hometown for the Vietnamese New Year celebration, and I was in the apartment alone. And it was also during one of the COVID outbreak shutdown period things, one of the mini ones before the big one later that same year. So I was depressed about being in the apartment all alone all day, and I was reading so many interesting things about the Wandavision that I eventually gave in and watched it off the computer, which I regretted doing because it ended up being uncomfortable on the computer, and I'm not sure it was good for my eyes to watch that much stuff off the computer. But whatever, I did it, and thought it was good. Like everyone else, I thought the ending was underwhelming, but the basic story was intriguing. It was a little bit gimmicky, but it was interesting. It was new. It was something different. The other Marvel series that have come out, Loki and Captain America and the Winter Falcon and the Hawkeye one, and what else has come out this year? Is that all of them? Those ones, I suppose I could have streamed them off my computer using those Vietnamese streaming websites, but I didn't bother. Again, like I said, I don't like watching stuff off the computer screen. I don't like watching extended stuff like that off the computer screen. The occasional YouTube video is different. So, if I ever get myself in a position where I have a subscription to Disney Plus and I can watch it on the big screen from the comfort of my house, from the comfort of my couch, I may well come back to those series. But for this year, WandaVision was enough. The Rick and Morty season, Rick and Morty, in the past, even though I'm out here in Vietnam, I've been able to watch Rick and Morty on YouTube fairly easily in the past because, for whatever reason, in the past, there were a lot of full episodes of Rick and Morty on YouTube. I guess they were more relaxed about enforcing the copyright in the past, but they seem to have cracked down on it. It was harder to do it last year, and then this year it was really hard to find it all on YouTube. The copies I saw were distorted, and then that final episode I never did track down on YouTube. So I realized I just got done saying I wasn't going to watch any TV on my computer, but Rick and Morty is different. Rick and Morty is something I've kept up with for years, ever since a friend got me into it, and it feels like an event that you have to keep up with, Rick and Morty. But I don't think I'm going to keep up with it next year. Just trying to find copies on YouTube is more trouble than it's worth now. So I watched almost the whole season of Rick and Morty. Some episodes of varying quality on YouTube, but could not get the final episode in the end. So those are my TV shows for the year. In terms of podcasts, I finished up the History of Rome podcast by Mike Duncan. Now, this is something I had actually started the year before, but it took me about a year to finish the whole thing through. And now, when I say finish the whole thing through, I should clarify that means listening to it 4 times through. It's a system I've developed over the years where audiobooks and podcasts, because you can miss stuff while you're listening to audiobooks and podcasts. You can get distracted, your mind can wander, you can miss stuff. So I listened to everything 4 times through now. So the History of Rome podcast is massive. So listen to the whole thing 4 times through. It took me about a year, maybe not quite a year, but finished it up. So I'm going to have to check the dates again. I started it sometime in the summer of 2020, and I believe I finished it sometime in this past fall I finished it. Anyways, I reviewed that, so I'll link to that review down below. And then after that, I was going to go ahead and do Revolutions, also by Mike Duncan, which I've been wanting to get into for a while, but I decided to take a quick detour and do the Dan Carlin King of Kings series. Now, King of Kings is actually just episodes 56, 57, and 58 of the ongoing series Hardcore History. But Hardcore History is divided into different chapters or different stories. So this is King of Kings from the Hardcore History podcast. And so then I listened to that. I wanted to listen to that because I'm reading Herodotus. And that seemed like it would be the perfect thing to supplement Herodotus with. And it was. I'm glad I listened to that while I was reading Herodotus. And then I got into the Revolutions by Mike Duncan. And I'm breaking that up into seasons. So far I reviewed on this channel the Season 1, the English Revolution, and Season 2, the American Revolution. Currently in the middle of Season 3, the French Revolution, which is amazing. The work Mike Duncan did on the French Revolution, it's just really fascinating listening. I'm so glad I'm listening to that, but I haven't finished that yet. So the ones I've finished and I've reviewed were the English Revolution and the American Revolution. And French Revolution, I'm about 3/4 of the way through my first listening. So I still have to do a couple more listenings before I'll review that. And I think that's everything. So those are all the movies, TV shows, and podcasts I've listened to this year. So yes, thank you everyone for sticking by me this year. Thanks everyone for watching the videos and leaving the comments and everything. It's been an interesting year, hasn't it? With the lockdowns and the coronavirus and the Delta variant and everything. I think it's safe to say it's been a rough year all around, huh? Um, I certainly have struggled with the lockdowns this year and being trapped in a small space. And I think the YouTube community has helped. So thanks a lot, guys, and best of luck in the new year.